Hello, my name is Goran Mekic, or Meka for short, and I will talk about um, Reggae services and projects and dig deeper into the CBSD and how it's all implemented and some of the Reggae internals. So these letters are really small. Okay, hope this helps. Um, let's start with project. Usually, I had a need for really quick projects, actually, ideas that I need to explore. And I would really like if that would be made so it's disposable, so that I can get rid of all the dependencies, packages, whatever is needed for it, real quick. Yet I don't want it to all be one huge jail because I wanted to um, share the common code between the services. Like if you use MySQL, you don't have to do anything but use equal MySQL. But let's see that in action. Um, I'm gonna, I don't know. Uh, let's call the project. Let's call it taken. No, perfect. So I'm gonna no. I'm going to initialize the project, and that's kind of not much to show. It's a make file, and for these use and purposes of our project, let's say that we going to use. Okay, these two, maybe Nginx will take a while, so I'm gonna take it away. But not yet because I wanna explain something. And then I want my service called Servi, right? I'm trying to avoid to call it a service because then it's really biggest what I'm talking about when I say a service. So inside the project, we have two services that are we requesting that are being built for us, and one really not imaginative name for a service that is actually a pair name and a URL where it can be get cloned. That's the idea. And you can have multiple of those, or you can create vars.mk and add here a few more, whatever you need. So vars.mk is like override. You can do some stuff in it that are not um, they're not in here. And this means that if you have this already, then it's gonna work. But if you're just starting with a project, then you want to create services directory, and in it it's survey. We're gonna get back to that, but what is the name? What it enables is that Reggae project is not going to, well, ask too many questions. So and give us some room to work. Okay, so let's create um, based on Ansible. Let's create just survey, and what we get is basic Ansible um, skeleton, some dummy uh, script, and a template if we want to change playbook for Ansible that is being executed. This is where we're going to do it because that's used for generating the actual playbook that's going to run. Uh, Provisioners that are enabled can these can be multiple, but I don't know what would you use it. Let's say shell provisioner gets you Python, and then Ansible one does the rest of the job, or some other um, scenario that you might have that requires you to have two provisioners or uh, many provisioners, right? Uh, the reason I'm not doing that in this file is because when you enable Ansible provisioner, the Reggae is going to install Python inside that jail and initialize it properly. Anyway, that's what you get with the survey right now, and let's go here and hope for the best. Actually, right now when I make inside the project directory, is going to download everything first. It's not already there. If the directory already exists, then it's gonna skip it. That's why I created a service first, so that project doesn't even try to initialize that part. Anyway, the Let's Encrypt is going to be installed by fetching um, one of the, well, basically playbooks. It's come on, we already had that. Okay. I keep finding. Sorry. This is real cool. I keep finding errors in Let's Encrypt, and in variables. Ah, look at that. Okay. Now, maybe this is not so bad because now I have one service that is um, provision half the way, and Ansible promises that running uh, provision multiple times gives you the same result. Now, they don't state that for the partial provisioning, but that's what we're going to find out today, I guess. And it's if you're sysadmin, DevOps, or whatever you call people working with Ansible and writing roles, um, you will probably have situations like this that something in the role is not right. And actually, that's the whole reason I started writing Reggae because I wanted to run Ansible real fast. I mean, real fast, meaning that I just type make and Ansible just happens to be uh, provisioned inside that jail. Uh, that's what I mean when I say fast. I don't actually do it. And because this wasn't here before, yeah, this task takes forever, at least in this machine. And I just interrupted it with Control C. So it's not really important for today's lesson. Uh, Something to do with the SSL. When we get to that, I will explain. Because that's probably going to be most of your work, some web service. And if that's most of your work, then probably SSL hardening is what you're interested into. So it's not that this is not important. It's just that it takes about an hour on this machine. You don't need it right now. So what we got now, free Reggae services, and because Let's Encrypt didn't true, I can provision them all by just saying make provision. But I can also say just one service, and I want Let's Encrypt to finish because I did that change and I want to check it and so on. So uh, I want to show you something and I'm waiting for it to finish. Okay, right. So I'm gonna trust that Let's Encrypt just works, and maybe we're gonna need it today, maybe not, but uh, I'll see. It's really easy to recreate, so let's say it's all cool. No, actually, there is this that we want. What I wanted to show you is that you're going to get your in provision with a common role for project that is called One Love. It's also one of my pet projects, and it's a collection of FreeBSD roles that are well integrated with Reggae at least, and I suspect they actually work in any kind of jail. Now, I have that, and there are these three jails that are up. What I wanted to show you is that Let's Encrypt, you see that by the jail ID. Uh, the order they are created is less encrypt first than our survey than Nginx. The reason is that Reggae has a concept of service and actually, let me show you that code. It's that simple. You have services that are going to be started before your service and some that are going to be started after. So you have pre-services used, ignore this for now. Pre-services, your own services, and post-services. Uh, the pre-services are those that are almost all. Nginx is post, right? And what is actually going on here is that there are few services that need to start really early, right? They need to be created first. Then maybe you're depending on some of the services that you need and that you're using, and they are going to also be started before your own services. But Nginx is probably going to be connected to your own backend, so you need your services first, then post services. And there's an order here. Ideally, this is the latest addition to Reggae. So ideally, this will all go into the nice backend that you can query and maybe be some kind of hub. And right now, this is just a few services that you can use, and you can see that they're kind of my own private. This should get more official space. Right, all these jails and roles and provisioners uh, shouldn't be like this, my own, but the use, I mean, this syntax is the newest addition to Reggae, so it's the youngest, and I didn't really reveal it, but this can remain. I had enough. Sorry, I had enough experiments with it to know that user-facing the syntax is not going to change. Use equals and the list of services you need. And I know it's at some point it's going to be a register of other services that you can use, which is web-based REST service and so on. Anyway, um, that's a promise. Let's see what it does right now. You can um, you can log into your service, right? And you can see there's address ETH0 if you I know these two, right? So based on this, you're inside the VNet based jail, and uh, this is a VNet interface renamed to ETH0 inside the jail. And yeah, you can see it's E pair 10G. All right, cool. Um, anyway, if you don't specify a service, CBSD will ask you, okay, I have these services. running what you want, and then you can choose your own, right? And you can even log in as a different user, and that uh, right, it's same address, same ETH0, right? Um, I don't think this works, but let's break it. Yeah, I thought so. Anyway, um, you have your services now, and you can log into them and use them and provision and whatnot. But I like raw sockets because they enable me things like this. I know there's wait, ghost minus D. No, ghost name. Yeah. So can you ping CBSD on this one? I know that one is always up because Reggae made sure of that. But you can also say, how about this one? And it's the same because you're in the same domain. But your own services are resolvable, and we're gonna check that. So 27 and 27 here, right? So it's registered, and there's DHCP and DNS, local unbound, that uh, all these things get registered to, so you can ping jails around in your network. When I say in your network, I mean network as in CBSD zero bridge uh, interface, right? You know, it's a bridge because it's in the group. That's called bridge. And sorry. And uh, when I say in that network, it means that jails and beehive virtual machines can be attached to this same bridge, and they're going to share the same network. I think this one. I'm not sure. Uh, yeah, that's why I automated it, so I don't have to be sure, right? It's now magically and wonderfully done for me. So once you have your services, it's what enables also is that if you need to configure um, your, okay, let's say it like this. If I had MySQL here or PostgreSQL, I could ping them like this. So your configuration is proper port, and you call them just by name. You don't need the domain or anything. So it's shorter. You know it's going to be MySQL everywhere. Like I know this is going to work, right? And it's gonna tell you where exactly it is. It's just that you don't need to remember. Now there is You don't need, sometimes you're not in the project directory, or maybe you don't even have it because it's a production. And then you need to log into the jail. And first, these are the running ones, and these are the also running ones. The greener ones are running. And to log in into the jail, this is the command, and this is what Reggae is using under the hood to either log in or this is a cool trick. Um, right? You can execute stuff. I think this is also the syntax. Yeah. So everything CMD equals and then uh, the string is going to be executed inside the jail and reported back. How do you know it's inside the jail? Because in my configuration, if it's not in the jail, this is red. Everything it finds, the graph, everything colorizes on host, but not inside the jail. And the very, I don't think this will work, but this will. So what I wanted to demonstrate is that sometimes you have a pitfall, and this is one of them. Now, this CCTL port was executed inside a jail because you see it's jailed. But you also see it colorized, which means grep wasn't inside the jail. Now, if you're piping whatever commands, doesn't have to be a grep, sometimes it's not going to be available outside of your host, and this is not going to work, or it's going to be with the wrong environment or whatnot. So I found out through scripting and working on Reggae, this syntax works better for me. I expect the command to be in double quotes, and whatever is here, I know is going to be inside a jail. So it's not only CBSD or Reggae pitfall. Whatever you use for jails, this is common for all of us, right? So watch how you pipe. That's one of them. Uh, and I can't stress that enough. How many times I did something wrong with this thing exactly, and uh, what I kind of expect you to do is have make the same mistake, but at least that it will take you shorter than it took me to figure it out. Good luck. Anyway, let's go back to the reggae. I said that var's file is ignored by default, and you can override stuff here. So if I say, actually, no, let me show you something. Make print. Right. So if you ask it about the URLs, it's gonna tell you this. If you ask it about service names, and if you no, um, what I wanted to say is that these are going to give you some info about the services that your project is uh, using, and if you want to override that for any purpose, it's going to be easier to just say, okay, remove nginx like this inside the vars.mk, and now you don't get it in the list, right? So this is why the wars.mk is here. This is just one example of overriding something in from the make file, right? This is where it came from. So you can probably go wild, but up to a degree, because some things are going to be, I think, already included because of this. While you reach wars.mk, so you have to be careful. You can't just write arbitrary stuff in their more more limits again. Anyway, this is how it why warsmk is there, and what you can do also is put it into a special mode for development. Now, if I say make down, that one will go down. But if I say make down with all the dependencies, then let's encrypt is also going to be brought down. And if I remove the use and leave it like this from the make file, then all the dependencies are brought down. I mean, all the jails are stopped. Okay, so we see nginx, survey, and let's encrypt already not running the last two. Now, if I make, there are a few things that are going to happen, and I'm trying to catch output, and this is one change pass is for the user created solely for development inside the jail. I mean, you write the code on the host, but you're executing it inside the jail. If for no other user reason, then because that's how your production is going to run, and you probably want to copy that. You want to be closest to production that you can. What it brings is first, it's going to generate this file where it's going to say, okay, yes, please use development if not stated otherwise. That's why the question mark. And this file is ignored in the Reggae service by default, unless you remove it from git ignore. What does that mean is that when you log into survey now, user source is populated with the it's not actually populated mounted. Null mount with the directory where the server directory is. On the host, it's repos, then project and services and whatnot, right? But this is in user source. Uh, that's what devil mode brings. And you can see that devil is user and group that all these files belong to. Although when you go to here, naturally they belong to me. What happens is that um, the Reggae is smart enough to read user ID and group ID of the um, account that runs make inside a project or a service, and then creates same user, just calls it devil with the same user ID and a group ID. So it has all the permissions on the service files, right? So that what which goes to the Git. So that's how that's the core of the, let's say, DevOps of the Reggae. It's allowing something inside the jail to run it, see it, or whatever you're developing and whatever your application is, uh, but not necessarily editing the code inside that jail. You can edit on the host, and these changes will be visible. For example, let's just add a comment and say just a comment. This is inside the jail, and when I look at it after logging out, it's there. So this is also convenient if you're not a developer but you're working on a, let's say, Ansible role. You need to copy some configuration files that are going to become templates. So it's a nice way how to. That's how I uh, exchange files usually. Although you know that all your CBSD jails data is here, unless you said otherwise. Um, and this is service, so here, and it is the root of my jail. That this gets mounted, right? If you look at all the mount, right, this is where it comes from. All right, and um, what I wanted to show you. Okay, now you can do um, you can do something like this. You can stop it, and you can even do something like this. Okay, stop this, then this, right? The CBSD is not gonna care about the order of services, and basically these are only jails in this example. But it's not gonna care about that. When you type make down, those pre-post used services are gonna enforce some order, and you see that make down it has the opposite direction going through. the list of services than make up laws. That's kind of logical. Um, but what I'm trying to say is that sometimes you're going to want to need the jails to share some, I don't know, directory or something that's gonna require them to be um, that this goes down first before this one, for example, and it's gonna hang and it's not pretty and so on. So that's why Reggae is taking care about the order so much so that you don't get locked out. And it's when I say CBSD doesn't care about that, it's not its job. It doesn't even know how to care. I mean, um, for something else, you need to tell CBSD how what do you want with those jails, and that some other mean in this particular example is reggae. Now, right, let me show you. So this is make up. Let's encrypt this first, and here it was last. And once this is up, this IP addresses like 93 are going to be PF because the CBSD jail told it so. No, no, right? And 93 is here. So we see three basically addresses that are from the segment of addresses that Reggae is using. And if you don't like it, this is what I use for my configuration, and this is the full comment uh, for everything that you can change. So, yeah, once you install Reggae, ideally before you do any initialization, because you can see that some of the addresses are here, and during the initialization of your interfaces and jail and so on, these are going to be handy. Um, so yeah, you can name your interface CBSD0 or not. You can name it anything you like, right? But and this is you shouldn't touch the sample. Everything you uh, override here is going to be taken precedence on these, and this is just what default looks like somewhere in the script. So everything is ideally changeable and customizable. Even the very minimal pfconf will be generated unless any pfconf exists. It's not going to touch anything then. So uh, table CBSD is here. Anchor is here. Roughly speaking, this is what gives internet to jails. This is what redirects ports to them. That's really a short way to say it. And it's done in such a way that you can change your firewall any way you like. You just need to know that this CBSD table, it's preferred it exists. You can still ignore it, but better if it at least exists. And this anchor also, they're going to be populated by CBSD jail, uh, by actually DHCP server, and you can do whatever you like with them. It's not a hard dependency on a system administrator how to do not touch this line, and I really hated those configs. So you have two things CBSD related. One is a table, one is anchor. Now you do whatever you like with them, but CBSD is gonna try to keep them consistent. Um, Emphasis on the try. So this is how it all happens. Oh yeah, no, it's not. No, actually, it's never over. Uh, the MFS is what is mounted here, right, on the slash def. And the MFS is mounted per jail. So different rules can be applied to a device inside a jail compared to the host one. So, for example, for this CBSD jail, you're gonna see that PF is quite unusual. It has mode and it has a group unbound. The reason for it is you can do stuff like this. I'm trying to show you something that I needed, and um, called the Docker couldn't provide. So I was really curious of a how much of a network laboratory, for example, can be replaced with can be implemented using jails. So this is one of them: how to make PF work, and why it's unbound. Because if you look what's running, DHCP server is running as user DHCPD, and DHCPD has membership inside this unbound group. That unbound group comes from system, and I'm blind here, right? And it's also, don't pretend you're not, on the host. Unbound has the same ID and group ID. I mean, user and group IDs are the same because it's the same system, right? So there is a DHCP server that is running as DHCP CD user that has membership in the Unbound group that has rights to read and write from PF. And PF is on the host, not VNet jail. So this is a way for your jail to control your PF on the host. Um, I wanted this setup to be easily able to fastly tear it down and create it again. So uh, it's easier to do it inside a jail, especially with the flexibility like this. And yeah, I didn't say why it's unbound. Um, because if you look at how the DHCP server is actually configured, it's going to run this hook. And among other stuff, the hook will try to register um, using right var unbound. And var unbound is special. I mean, it's unbound, right? But this unbound is from the host mounted here. And because that DHCP needs to edit the zone files, this is what I have as a zone file. And we see our survey here that gets registered when DHCP leases an address. So this is what happens network firewall DNS wise, DHCP wise, when one of the services, uh, actually anything, gets an address from the very special jail that is called CBSD. So this is how services work. I know it's been quite a ride, and if you're not uh, acquainted with all these technologies, I know it's overwhelming. Uh, but I promise it's going to be a topic of the next upcoming lectures also. So we're going to break it down even more and see why it's done like that, and maybe get some discussion on how what else can be done. In fact, the audience to tell us what do you think would be nicer. For example, this is what I was thinking about. Mount is all cluttered right now. What if we don't mount all of these directories, but mount this one, but magically, so that when you write to jail, it knows it goes to uh, Etsy or root or compat or whatever, right? That would be really, really nice. And I have an idea, but it's not still cooked in my head properly. So, what I'm trying to say is that you may not like something like nitpicking, like mount output is too huge. Can you make it less verbose? And of course, let's discuss that, not just make it one directional lecture about CBSD. Thank you for listening, and I would like to mention CBSD Klanos and the whole project Patreon page. Klanos is a web interface that controls CBSD. So it's under the Patreon page for Klanos basically covers everything on GitHub that is under CBSD, right? So check it out. I would like to thank everyone for donating so far because it enabled CBSD project having a server to properly run uh, some stuff that we couldn't before. really a relief. And well, maybe not couldn't, but was really, really technically annoying. Now the CBSD got a server that the sole purpose is to see how the CBSD behaves on actual hardware. How do you work? So it's kind of testing. Thank you for that, and please consider if you're not donating, please consider doing that too. The other project I would like to mention is a Tilda Center. It's a hacker space I co-founded with, well, actually with my wife. I did that luck, and we're dedicated to learning and education, and all our lang- uh, lectures are and will forever be free. Uh, so consider donating so we can rent apartment or whatever space once we can because of the corona and start lecturing on in actual space. And you might want to browse what Tilda is actually doing by going to tilda.center/YouTube, and it's going to present you all our uh, lectures and courses up until now. And some are in Serbian because we started with our native language. Some, but lately we are working real hard on the English ones. So if you give us enough time, there will be enough English courses there. Uh, have fun. I hope you learn something. I hope you will learn something from us. And see you next week.